Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dalaran, and today we'll be showing you how to do a rogue solo run for Torgast. I decided today on stream to run one of the hallways of Torgast at layer 8 and show you what I do on my rogue when I'm trying to solo the run. Soloing runs in Torgast became a little bit easier. Blizzard buffed the rogues slightly when it comes to Torgast and the abilities we get, but also they nerfed the actual Torgast run, so it should be a lot easier for some of you guys that are low item level. But in this video, I want to go into some advanced things that I do, especially on a undergeared character that is a rogue, utilizing all the things we have from crowd control to the powerful defensives, as well as how to pick certain powers depending on your playstyles. So let's take a look at the run for the day for the layer 8, and I included a bunch of helpful tips while doing it on livestream. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. So we're going to start off with, I don't even know what floors we have this week. I just haven't even looked at it. And all of them have different, so we got a Court Heart Institution, and the other one is going to be, just so I have it, Mordegar. So I think this one might have the Assassin. So looking back at the runs, Cold Heart Institution ended up being the hallway where enemies have more health, and the higher you ascend with floors, the more health they will have, which makes certain endgame bosses as well as certain powerful trash bags harder because they just grow in power, so you have to adjust with your damage. And Mordegar ended up being the one where you take more magic damage the higher you ascend. So just want to make sure to get that confusion out of the way. I'm still learning all the different torments in Torgast. The first powers we have at the start, and this one helps rogues out a lot, is Secret Spices. Definitely want to pick it up if you get it early enough. Killing more rats will give you more health, and with enemies scaling with extra health, I think that is going to be a great defensive choice. But now comes the real run. The first advice I have for you is treat Torgast like any serious PvE content. For dungeons and raids, we get consumables, so you might as well use consumables for your Torgast runs. Consumables can give you that edge when you don't have the gear for it, as potions for healing as well as damage can help you burn powerful enemies and powerful bosses a lot quicker. So definitely consider spending some gold into some of the consumables for your Torgast runs. Second advice, and this one's going to be about combat. As a rogue, you're not really super tanky. You don't have a lot of self-healing. You are a kind of survivalist spec with a lot of CC on the enemies and high damage. So the first thing you can do with Torgast is not rush ahead. First thing you want to do is take it easy, figure out what kind of enemies you're fighting. For the first few enemies, I figured out that some of them are casters, but not all of them, to figure out kind of like their patterns of combat and how they do things. I know not a lot of people really pay attention to mechanics, but those can really help you out, and learning which enemies you need to save a kick for, which enemies you might need CC for, can definitely help you a long way. The first thing I decided to do with the very first elite enemy, I decided to try to take him on solo. I killed all the enemies around him in order to see how I fare against the elite myself. I had no idea what grand automatons do, but it looks like they have stack and power, a natural power buff, which every elite has. These guys do also gain a little bit extra armor over time, and once in a while they do this massive slam that does a lot of damage. But if you're able to take them on by themselves, they don't really seem all that harmful, and if you're able to pop some cooldowns with those guys in other trash bags, you're actually able to double up enemies, but don't go overboard, especially if you're doing Torgast on a rogue that's not super high item level. You don't need to pull all the enemies at once. It isn't a Mythic Plus, it isn't a race. Just try to take on enemies solo by themselves if that makes you run a little bit easier. So we are in a situation where we have two elites fighting each other. You're gonna have that a lot in Torgast. The easiest way I think to do this is to body pull one of the guys on the outskirts. Sometimes it pulls the dudes in the middle. I feel like it's best as a rogue just to see if you can body pull, because if you can body pull somebody by themselves, you can then eliminate how many extra adds are around. And as long as it doesn't pull the guys in the middle, you'll be okay. Like what I'm essentially trying to do is I think I want to pull this guy as well, so I can have 3 enemies by themselves. I'll have 1 non-elite and 2 elites. And then I think what I'll do is I'll focus this guy, the automaton, because I think he's the only one that's actually threatening. Now, if this guy were to have pulled the guy in the middle, the big dude, I would have just done 2 of them at a time, and you can kind of pick them off one by one. Now, these guys are mechanical and humanoid, so honestly, I think I could pull 3 and I'll be okay. We have Cloak of Shadows, so if these guys cast anything, we should be okay. This guy, I think, just casts a frontal. Yes, he does, so we could just kind of avoid that. Flagellation, pop a self-heal, if we feel like we're struggling. We got Leech, which is a really good buff for Outlaw. That's another advantage of Outlaw is Leech. But yeah, I mean, I felt like with my gear and with my approach, I was able to kind of pick off the adds around and just focus the enemy that was the hardest for me to fight with. And we came out okay. If I had evasion, that would have made an even easier overrun. Ambush applies Rupture or kill an enemy reduces advantage cooldown. I think I'm going to Rupture and Spike. That could be pretty good. From there, continue to kill more enemies as I'm trying to farm as many powers. Every single enemy and every single vial, and even the Morats in the zone, can give you a chance to drop a power. Powers are huge as they can just simply make your runs much easier, especially if you get some really crazy combos. And I know you don't really want to clear every enemy, but if you're trying to get a run done, clearing as many enemies gives you more chances for powers. More chances for powers means more chances for crazy combos to make your next floor and even the boss at the end of the run much easier. Alright, now we've got a boss. First mini boss of the floor. We have evasion. We have a challenge coming up very, very soon. We don't, again, need to rush into this guy. He has a lot of health, 151k at layer 8. Only floor 1 though, so it's not super high up there. But as long as we have all the CDs, we should be fine. Now this guy is a Javelineer, and again, it's one of those things we can just take a note of what the mobs are. And this guy, I think, just tosses spears at you. So I think he's all physical damage. Up adrenaline rush immediately. He's gonna throw a spear, get our Ventier ability rolling. So he does root, and he does try to kind of get in range. But he's gonna throw spears either way. And we get an ability out of him. And we also cleared every one of these floors, so we got actually quite a bit of powers. Not a lot, but it's at least something to start with to get us going in potential builds in the future. We can go for heal every time we hit an enemy. This could be good up until the final boss, unless he spawns ads all the time. Duration of evasion, feigned, cloak of shadows advantage is increased by 3 seconds. That could be really good for defensive. Or visor. We're going to be killing everything and interacting with every item anyway. We don't need the visor of the firstborn. So we'll go for the defensive buff just so we can have extra longer defenses, which can also combo from other defensive traits. We're trying to balance the offensives and defenses. Rogues generally start pretty good offensively, but we want some defenses at least. Now we can either go for while in combat you gain haste, while in combat you gain armor, or go for maximum health. Maybe haste is better though, just because you'll get haste stacks over time, especially just in combat. We're gonna go for haste. I feel like we have enough survivability with the spices for Morats, because we only have that at 23 stacks, and I think we can go for 50 maximum. And another thing you can do, since you have a follower rolling with you, at least for this floor I do, we have a follower named Son. Son is looking for Varric, and we can reunite these guys right now and I can get a power immediately. But Varric does do even the littlest of damage, so he's gonna try to draw aggro. So you can see the health bar is going down, like he's actually doing some damage. You can actually see his melees. It's not a lot of damage, but he can be helpful. Because he's holding aggro, he's getting attacked, and if let's say you pull 2 enemies and you didn't mean to pull 2, you can hold aggro on 1 and kind of DPS him down. And otherwise he can also just help you DPS. So you can just help him out, help them get their friends out of Torgast, or help them get their flutes or whatever it is. Or you can just hold on to him for a bit. Let him help you with some of the fights, because they can sometimes either hold aggro, draw aggro away from you, or they can just provide just the smallest amount of extra DPS needed in order to get through enemies. So from this mini boss, we got Leather Apron, which can help you guys deal with mobs. Gouging enemies, stunning them, blinding them, any kind of CC will force the enemy to deal less damage to you. This can also stack 2 times. So you can reduce the enemy's damage by 50% for 5 seconds. So you'll throw them in a stun, they're stunned for the full duration. After that stun for 5 seconds, they'll come out weaker. So if you're struggling with enemies, especially those that do a ton of damage to you, and you feel like you're running out of cooldowns, you just gotta take that hit to the face and you don't have very much health in order to take that damage, Leather Apron can help you a ton. Another tip I can offer is when you go to the broker, you can actually see who the boss is going to be at the end of your run. For our run, we ended up getting this tree boss. I'm still learning all their names, but we'll call him a tree boss. A couple of things he does is a slam that will stun you. That can be interrupted. There's also a cast he does to try to heal himself. If you CC it, he won't recast it. So as a rogue, you can use a kidney shot, blind, and in our case, we'll be using the gouge to stop it. He also starts with a bunch of these bark skin stacks that he will take less damage in the opener. So as a rogue, you'll probably want to save your CDs after you remove those stacks, and they're removed with damage. Before we dive into the broker to see what he has, I usually pick up to see what the kind of anima power we get at the end of this floor, and we got First Steps. Insanely good for Outlaw because of short grapple hook and gives you a ton of damage. And you can take a look at some of his abilities. We can go for Leather Apron, we can go for grapple hook, gives you defenses for 15 seconds, which could be really strong. Silent Foot Bat, if you feel like you need to pick it up. You got Crimson Vial reduction for 10 seconds, so you can have it down to 20 seconds. I think you can have 3 of them, so you can have basically constant uptime on Heal and Vial, although it's not always good. Now I'm thinking we pick up at least 1 plundered anima, which will let us pick up Restless Onyx Geodes for a defensive. So I think we'll do that. See what we get. And we got Restless Onyx Geodes for cheaper, so I think we'll pick up Restless, just because we already have it. And that's basically we got a cheaper Restless. I think we want to do one more Plundered. Would that give us, it would put us at about over 150, so we can still pick up Last Blade. We could pick up Apron if we need to. So I think we'll do Plundered, just see what we get. Very RNG with Plundered, but I believe. More health, I think we'll go with more health. We have almost 80k health, so I'm feeling alright right now. Now we can pick up more damage. I feel like on defenses, we're in a good spot. So we'll go for the Last Blade for a good offensive output. And I think we'll just go from there. And if you need food, if you didn't pick up any, he can give you Siege too. It's pretty good. You can just buy a bunch of that in the middle of your runs. This is why it's a good idea to do full clears of the floor, because you never know what kind of animal powers we get. The first step's power that we got just before we decided to approach the broker and buy some stuff from him ended up being the power that carried us. Every time we grapple hook, which is on a fairly short cooldown since we are Outlaw with all the CDR, not only do we now get a defensive, either Cloak of Shadows, Evasion, Heal, or Feint at a much longer duration because of another power that combos into this really well, but also grapple hook debuffs enemies where they take more damage from our finisher. So on bosses as well as with enemies, you're able to kind of utilize grapple hook for a defensive at a random what kind of buff it gives you, but also as an offensive. And with such short CD, it just combos really well. As long as I modify my playstyle slightly and use grapple hook as part of my rotation, I think we're gonna have a very easy run. The enemies in this floor are going to have more health though, so I still want to be careful and use big CDs for any big trash packs. Again, this isn't a sprint, but this is why we go slow so we don't die. Too many deaths means the Targu is going to come at us, and we kind of want all those health, all those potential reses in the future, all that saved up for the final boss in case they prove challenging, especially if you don't have a lot of gear. But this is why we go slow and clear everything. The more powers we get, the better it is going to be for us. And you kind of want to almost stay a step ahead of the floor. And once you start ramping, once you start really popping off with some really good powers, that's where the ease of these runs really comes in. Good thing that Blizzard nerfed a bunch of these, especially for rogues, and buffed a lot of the rogue utilities. However, it will still be challenging for some of you guys, especially if you are severely undergeared. But we're going to continue with our run either way. So far, so good. Cooldown or antenna? I feel like I'm tanky enough. Not only do I get big CDs, big defenses when I grapple, I also get big offenses when I grapple. So I feel like antenna, which is a really good proc if you get it. Extra shadow damage over 8 seconds. It's a low proc chance, but it's really strong when it does. Here we have instant finisher moves from the back, do 50% additional damage. This is good if you have a group. Otherwise, I think we're gonna go, we can either go for a heal, which is really good. It'll spawn 3 on big bosses, and on elites it'll spawn 1. Or we could go for the reflecting with Watchful Lightfly. I think we want to go damage. Just because we know the final boss is going to be the big tree guy with a lot of like armor and bark skin that we got to get off of him. So I think going for more damage is going to help us out a lot. And in the final room before you fight the boss, you'll always have access to the broker. This is your last opportunity to use whatever Phantasma earned from the run, which if you do full clears by killing every single enemy, looting everything, and destroying every phylactery, you will have a lot more off. And maybe you might have gotten 1 or 2 anima powers, if let's say there was nothing good to choose, where you might have gotten more Phantasma out of a run, which can sometimes save you in a pinch. Right now would be the time to buy the best abilities that will help you defeat a boss. And right now it's all down for you to fight the boss. If previously for some reason you were running talents for AoE, right now would be the perfect time next to the broker to change your talents to pure single target, unless you know the boss is going to have ads or something. So, perfect opportunity for you to get your final shopping list and then dive into the boss. And if you're someone who's super heavily undergeared, this would be the perfect time for you to have a couple of those deaths saved up. But we're gonna just try to keep burning through him. Flagellation so we can get a haze buff. Crush can't interrupt this time. It does stun you. I didn't realize it stuns you. Grapple hook in. Remember, the boss is already at less than 50% health. Boundary of the Forest, we'll try to gouge it, see if he recasts it. It doesn't look like he recasts it. So I think you just gotta save a stun or a blind for Boundary of the Forest, by the looks of it. And we are starting to take a little bit of damage. He has 3 stacks, but we have plenty of health to work with. We have big leech. Crush, we're gonna evasion. Gonna have a longer evasion, so that's gonna be pretty good. Still just trying to burn through our buffs. And the boss is dead. And there you just kind of want to commit as much cooldowns as you can. And this is where if you want to pop lust, potions, anything for the boss, if you are going to get any consumables, at least use them for the boss, because this is the final stretch. And if you saved any deaths from previous floors, it'll just give you more options to do this. And again, if let's say you lost, you pop all your cooldowns and the boss kills you, don't rush in headstrong, wait until that lust. Again, Torgast isn't about doing it as quickly as you can. You just got to get to the end and fight the final boss. But that's going to be a layer 8 solo. That I did have a lot of help by having pretty decent gear to start with. So if you're someone who has not a lot of gear, you're not going to be able to, you're just simply not going to be able to just jump into layer 8. So try to push up as many layers as you can. And if you need help for the final 7 and 6 layer, guildies, friends, and even people in LFG. Some people are more than welcome to help. Some people are tanks who just have an easier time with it. And the more people are in a group, the more animal powers you can get. And maybe someone in your group will have someone that is help them one-shot bosses. So that can just make it that much easier, even if you run in groups. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you find this guide helpful if you're a rogue trying to solo Torgast, especially at lower item level. Take your time with Torgast, utilize your crowd control, utilize your powerful defensives, and if you need to reset and wait until CDs are back up, you might have to wait 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes will save you the time where you would get to the final boss, and if you weren't prepared, you die, and then you have to start your run all over again. So sometimes going slow with Torgast, even though it seems like a speed competition and people just want to get it over with as soon as possible, going slow can sometimes be easier. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see all of you in another video.